Welcome to Relocare's Cultural Training Seminar about business culture in Mexico, sales techniques and negotiations. My name is Gabriela Sestafe and I work as an intercultural business consultant in Relocare for the Latin American countries and Spain. I was born and raised in Mexico, where most of my working experience comes from within the financial industry, in the development of new products, and as a project leader of different IT solutions for national and international customers. Apart from that, I have also worked in several research projects within the energy sector, among others. So in this matter, throughout my experience, I have had a close relationship with many stakeholders within the public and the private sector in Mexico. I came to Denmark to continue studying because I wanted to gain more international experience. And since that, I have been working daily with Danes in different organizations. It hasn't been an easy task learning, adapting, and managing the Danish language and the Danish culture. That's why I'm here today to help you understand and improve your relationships with Mexican people, as well as how to establish good negotiations. But before starting with the seminar, I would like to briefly mention about Relocare's products. Relocare has worked with intercultural training, taxation, relocation, as well as global mobility, where the company has successfully helped many expats, as well as their families, coming from different places and settling in Denmark, as well as Danes settling abroad. The objective for today is to provide you with a solid hands-on tools that you can use when working with Mexicans in a short training seminar. I would like to start by presenting the main pillars of the differences in culture when doing business with Mexico and the Western countries, hereby Europe, North America, and Australia. First of all, Mexico, as most of countries in Latin America, are within a high context business culture, in opposite of the Western countries, hereby Denmark, which are more shaped by a more individualistic style. Secondly, Mexico is highly oriented to their relationship, while most of Europe and North America are more oriented to the task. And last, the organizational structure in Mexico tends to a more hierarchical one, while in Europe tends to a flatter one. Language and communication in Mexico happen in a very different way as how it is in most of Europe and North America. Specifically, I mean the oral and written communication. People in Mexico use quite often the indirect communication. As we can see here, a yes can be a no, and it can also be a maybe. In the same way, a no can be a yes, and it can also be a maybe. So this can be really difficult for other cultures to understand. For example, when you are working with your Mexican colleague or partner and you ask him for a specific deadline, you may well receive a yes for an answer, but again, it may be a no, or it can be also a maybe. So before moving on how you can learn to manage these situations, I would like to explain a bit why this is happening, why the indirect communication is so used and employed in Mexico. Actually, there are many factors and plenty of research too that can help to explain these situations. But for now, and because of the short time, I would like just to mention specifically about two reasons, which are to avoid offending someone and not to get into possible conflicts. Dealing and managing conflicts in Mexico happen in a very different way as how it is in most of Europe and North America. For instance, in more individualist societies, directness in relationships at work are normally considered to be something positive, while in countries like in Mexico, there is usually an established framework of rules and expectations about how people need to perform and how people have to interact with others. And this is in order to preserve and establish comfort of zone within the work. That is why people in Mexico may choose not to be so open and direct in order to preserve this framework at work. So people from other cultures may find this really difficult, even as a challenge. What can you do in order to manage these situations? Well, there are a variety of techniques that we at Relocare can recommend it, and they have given positive results. First of all, provide context to the question or to the point you are bringing. That is, try to minimize the direct questions. For example, instead of asking, when can we meet again to revise the contract? So try to say instead, let's meet next Tuesday or Wednesday at 3 p.m. What do you say? Again, bring the whole context, bring a lot of details, and do not be worried that details will cause confusion or you won't be able to get your point. Actually, you are bringing more secure because now there are details on the table that your colleague or partner can rely on before saying his or her opinion. Details in collectivist societies are gold, and I'll get back to this point later. Finally, if a real conflict arises, then try to deal with it in a discreet way and not in front of everybody. It can be your boss, it can be a colleague, or it can be your subordinate. Another key aspect within collectivist societies is physical distance. Mexico, as most of countries in Latin America and South Europe, belong to a more touch-me business culture. Maybe this is in part because people in Mexico are emotional, highly expressional, and very friendly people. Normally, there is some passion in the topic when people are talking together, and maybe this can contribute to the fact that people get closer to each other. That is why people at work normally tend to give a kiss and a hug every day in the morning, and sometimes also when leaving the office. And this can be at college or in a social arrangement, even with people that you don't necessarily know. And this is regardless of the titles at work. So it doesn't matter if it's an intern, the secretary, or the boss. Among women, it is quite common that they also give a kiss and a hug at work in the morning. If you have a female boss, it is also used that she in the morning, when meets you, she will give you a kiss while saying good morning. So people behave in terms of we, and they greet each other in the same manner. The physical distance is very short compared to the one that exists in most of Europe and North America, when people tend to give the hand while keeping some distance. People from European countries may find this almost as an invasion of their own space and privacy. We at Relocare recommend to wait and see what the people you are working with do, and then imitate. You can also see it as a part of developing trust with the people you are working with. We have also mentioned that another key difference is the importance of the relationship compared to the more oriented task in Europe and North America. In countries like in Mexico and most of Latin America, people behave in terms of we and they think in terms of we. People need to get some insights into who you are, apart from your title at work, apart from your education. But who are you? Let me know about you in the private life. And this is one of the first steps in gaining trust among people in Mexico. For instance, a typical Mexican businessman is more concerned about the relationship, and so he or she will not spend enough time on the task. On the other hand, a typical businessman from the Western societies is more concerned about the task, and so he or she will not spend enough time on developing the relationship. But the point here is that it's not so linear, since it may be a slow process, since you do need to dedicate time to let people know you and you can know them. As a person from a more individualist society, you need to learn how to manage and to integrate, to some extent, your private life with your business life. For instance, you might be invited coming to a familiar party of one of your colleagues, your own boss, or a subordinate. And here you might think that is not entirely correct since you are at work, and business life should not be mixed with your private life, right? Furthermore, you may also think that you don't know them yet, they don't know you either. So what for? Why? And actually the answer is because you need to do this in order to get to know them, and they can know you. You need to invest time on their relationship. If we think in terms of a sale, actually it's the same process. It will be based on the relationship. First, people need to know you, to like you, and then it will come the product, hereby the product attributes, what the product can do for me. But first of all, it will be the relationship, as we can see in the slide. Imagine that your task in Mexico, for instance, is to find large and competitive distributors for your product. For make it easier, let's say that you or your company you work for already sell and handle with other Latin American countries. So maybe you have met the right people. But again, this does not necessarily mean that they will want to make business with you unless they know you and unless they like you. Of course, that you can also say that this exists also in the Western societies. Normally, it needs to be a match for when closing a deal. But the main difference is that in countries like in Mexico, your private life needs to be on board when closing a deal. So what can you do in order to handle both the relationship and the task? At this point, it has been emphasized that the way of interacting among colleagues, managers, and peers in Mexico varies dramatically from the way as how it is in Europe and most of North America. So we in Relocare recommend to get to know the people or the team you are working with. Be patient, engage in conversations not related to work while you are at work. And be curious about the people you are working with. Who are they? What do they like to talk about? What makes them smile at work? What is it important for them? This leads us also to a crucial point, which is small talk. Coming from a country where the small talk is not so popular or not so used, you might think that is kind of boring or maybe difficult to start with a small talk. But let me tell you that in countries like in Mexico, it is a must. People do it, and they are very good at it. So, as an expat, you may easily get engaged in topics such as about you and your family, about football, about politics. People spend a lot of time talking about the government, politicians, and corruption. So you can do it too. And however, you need to be careful and intuitive when talking about, for example, drug cartels, about USA and politics, especially about migrations, since it is a sensitive topic that may trigger feelings among different people. About the sexual and more open topics that might be considered normal in Europe and North America, especially when there are women present. And religion, around 85% of the population in Mexico are Catholic, and they may consider disrespectful listening, strong critiques about the religion. However, if you do it in a constructive way, most of the people will take it also positive. We had mentioned that the organizational structure in Mexico tends towards a more hierarchical structure, while in most of Europe and North America tends to a flatter one. In Mexico, status matters. That is why, if we think in terms of a sale, the relationship buyer-seller tends to be characterized by authority and power. And by authority, I mean a set of things that are visible and others that are not so visible. For example, how you are dressed, your car, your business card, and the right connections you may have with different people. This is related to the fact that the managers in Mexico are expected to have all the answers, or most of them. So in this matter, people in Mexico will expect that a manager from a Western society is also someone with some status and power. The flat structure that exists in most of organizations in Europe and in the US contributes to the more informal business environment, while in countries like in Mexico, because of the hierarchical structure, the focus tends to be on the process and on the details. So it can be while discussing the status of some projects or closing a deal with a possible customer. So here the challenge for someone from a flatter organizational structure is to find a balance between the details and the task, but remember, details are gold. Focusing merely on the task can lead to the motivation and uncertainty among the people you are working with, and worst case, not achieving the task. So, good manners are also a central part within the hierarchical structure. Politeness is a must, and you need to master it. It is imperative that you exercise very good manners in all your interactions. And the magic words, please and thank you, you need to bring them along at all times. And when you think that you have said them enough, believe me, it's not, so keep up. Impunctuality is another aspect within the hierarchical organizations. You may face that people meet not always on time, not so much at work, but mainly when it is a social or a familiar event. And this is not considered rude. Most of people in Mexico understand it and accept it. It is important to stress that it has nothing to do with disrespect of other people's time. It's just the way it is. So here's some techniques that we recommend in Relocare. Confirm using writing communication. And some days before the meeting or the specific event, confirm again and making sure the time, place, and other important details are also. Last but not least, I would like to give you an essential short overview about the existence of corruption and bribery in Mexico. The main point here is to make you aware that at some point you may face and deal with small but yet cases of corruption. For instance, let's say that you are in charge of opening a warehouse to your retail sales. So you need to get a lot of permits and documentation with a lot of authorities. First of all, you have for sure to deal with a lot of bureaucracy, and you may receive answers such as, this is not the right document you are bringing, you need to deliver an extra copy and we cannot do it for you here, you need to make the payment beforehand, and so on. Furthermore, you may also receive indirect questions or suggestions such as, well, if this permit is important for you, I can make it ready in the next few days, when it would normally take a month and a half or two. So this is already a sign of corruption, and now you have the word. In another example, let's say that you are told that this person has a broad experience in retail sales, and furthermore has the advantage of knowing the market and speak Spanish. At the first, it may appear that it's a great opportunity, and for most of the cases it will be. But it is always recommendable to do some research on the person. For example, get some recommendations of different group of people and do some cross-references on the person online. Finally, I would like to share an interesting fact in which, according to the Expat Insider Survey in 2016, most of the Latin American countries do well in terms of friendliness, but Ecuador and Mexico also rank in the top 10 for personal finances and cost for living. Expats' opinions mean that Ecuador, Costa Rica, and Mexico are among the most popular places for expats. Well, time is almost up. That's why I would like to address here that there are plenty of business opportunities in Mexico. And if you are aware of the cultural differences and you learn how to manage them, that is, convert them from being a burden into an asset, you will succeed in Mexico. You will be able to establish good negotiations and good relationships, and also a pleasant stay in Mexico. Thank you very much, and remember that you can always contact us at www.relocare.dk. Thank you very much.